Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. Another great day and a huge Michigan scandal update has happened and is still happening. So, we're going to give you the latest on that. Talk a little bit about transfer portal stuff. Ryan Day spoke today. Didn't say much, but he did his normal diatribe. Happy that the portal got closed. They're in this limbo with the 105. So, we're going to break that down a little bit, take your questions. As always, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys being on here each every night. Thank you to all you that pay it forward, to our troops, to our police officers, to our firefighters. Again, that's where our super chats go towards to get complimentary memberships to BuckeyeScoop.com. It's been a great program. We appreciate you guys supporting it. It's been fantastic. We also have some great news. Buckeye Boys are going to be joining the network a couple days a week to run right into our show. They're going to go from 6 to 7 on Monday and Thursday going forward. So we're excited to have those guys on board, to work with us. They've been doing killer work, and I think that you guys will really enjoy them. If you guys haven't watched them, they really do a great job, and they bring the heat each and every night. So really excited about Devin and Mello being on with us Monday, Thursday, leading into the show. But again, we appreciate you guys. Our store is open. The link is pinned to the top of the chat here. Also, on our Twitter page, it is pinned to the top. There's a tweet, and the gear is spectacular. It's really nice stuff. We've had a ton of orders, so thank you guys that have bought gear. But it's really good looking stuff. And I just appreciate you guys that have been supporting the brand since the beginning. So, with that being said, gonna bring in Nevada. Nevada, couple more coaches got smacked. What does this all mean going forward for Michigan, and how bad is it that there's this growing list of guys that have been sanctioned, probation, show cause? I've never seen anything like it. I think it's like 15 coaches now. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, if you've been following the dashboard, if you've been one of the people, you've seen that there were a couple of folks that had kind of done negotiated resolutions, for lack of a better term, and those turned out to be Jesse Minter and Steve Clinkscale, and um, they both ended up with show causes. They both ended up with, Jesse Minter ended up with a 1 year show cause. Clinkscale opened up with a 2 year show cause, which one, that's not normal. Getting show causes is not normal, and having so many different coaches get them. But it's what's really interesting in this is just why they got the show causes, and they got the Jesse Minter got a show cause primarily for impermissible contact, but for knowing that the contact was impermissible, still doing it and not reporting it to the Michigan administration, and then Clinkscale got it for failure to cooperate. So what you've got is you've got the NCAA building a case for a lack of institutional control, where you've got a program that's failing to cooperate, impeding investigations, not having a culture of impermissible activity that people just go for it. And as you mentioned, there's been at least 7 of the 10 active coaches, the countable coaches were sanctioned. There have been 9 separate suspensions, and then there were some unnamed coaches that were in the first thing. So yeah, between firings, suspensions, unnamed coaches, and coaches, it's somewhere around 17, with 9 named formal suspensions for Michigan, which is, and again, all of this is before the advanced surveillance thing is adjudicated, which obviously is by far the biggest of all the penalties, the one that really is, Michigan's going to hang on. So it's, yeah, I mean, it's just bad. It's without precedent. And if you're looking for what is the NCAA doing, in Florida Gulf Coast Tennis just had a case settled with the NCAA, where they had a fine, they had 2 years of probation, and they vacated all their wins. And this was under a situation where they showed exemplary cooperation with the NCAA. That they separated from all the employees that were part of the scandal. They worked hand in hand with the NCAA along the way. They did everything cooperative, and the NCAA is highlighting these types of things because it's to draw a bright line between these organizations that cooperate with NCAA and only end up on probation and vacating wins, as opposed to a program like Michigan, which has not cooperated. This entire thing has been, marked by defiance, lack of cooperation, lying to the NCAA authorities, and I mean, Sharon Moore, who's already under NCAA probation. I mean, if Klinkscale got 2 years for failure to cooperate and Minter got one, what's Sharon Moore? I mean, he is the current head coach at Michigan. What's he going to get? A year suspension? 2 year suspension? I mean, I think it's got to be a year suspension minimum. And I don't know how he survives that. I know that they maybe they throw him up as the sacrificial lamb or whatever they're doing while they're on probation and experiencing a bowl ban. But it's got to be chilling for Michigan fans. I don't know how Michigan fans can continue to deny that this is a something when you had two more of your 10 accountable coaches end up with show cause. I mean, show causes are a big deal. And yeah, I'm trying to think about with Ohio State. I mean, obviously Tressel, very famously got his show cause, but how many Ohio State coaches have received show causes, in the past 20 years? I'm trying to. I mean, I'm sure it's happened, but it's not a long list. And for Michigan, it's just like every other day: 1 year show cause, 2 year show cause, 4 year show cause, repeat offender for Sharon Moore. But yeah, it's bad. I think the precedence of the recent settlements with the NCAA by other programs is bad. And as we sit with the Michigan thing right now, we're looking at an end of May, mid-June, for the full hearing, and then probably by mid-June, early July for the final resolution on this thing. Again, on this phase of the case, which is the Stallions advanced scouting thing. So it's all going to be wrapping up here in probably the next 60 days, and this is when the rubber is going to meet the road. But Clinkscale and Minter felt that it was better to take 1 year and 2 year show causes than to kind of go down with the ship on this one. And the rest of them, but this goes right to the point of, if it was only going to be a slap on the wrist for Sharon Moore, like a game suspension, which they're claiming, or whatever it's going to be, why would they go to full hearing? Why wouldn't they have gone the Minter route, gone the Clinkscale route, and taken the whatever the punishment was and kind of moved on? Clinkscale got 2 years show cause. What is Sharon Moore, who is already on probation, a repeat offender who destroyed evidence in an active investigation? What is he going to face? That's the question. And for Michigan fans, it's got to be very chilling.
Yeah, when you look at the facts and what's been laid out, and the first thing people say is, well, these guys all escaped to the NFL and there's no real consequence. But you read the whole article, and the very bottom of it is that, look, this is a level 1 violations, and they've been completely uncooperative at every turn. And again, that's some strategy, I guess. I think that you've seen throughout time, like when there's been an issue or a case or whatever, like, it's better just to fess up, beg for mercy, take your medicine, move on. But I think that this medicine is going to be nasty. I mean, I think that what's going to go down at Michigan, with what these guys have done, is going to be, I think it's going to be like phenomenally bad for these guys, because the culture there is so bad. Again, I have no idea how Ward Manuel won an award last year for AD. I have no idea how he still has a job. Like, you all talk about like non-compliance. Like, I mean, they're breaking records every day in non-compliance, because the head coach is telling them to do stuff during Cheeseburger Gate, where again, they're meeting with recruits during COVID. They're having breakfast with them. He's eating a cheeseburger and a milk, and then he's denying that he was ever there. And then the recruit and his dad are saying, oh no, he was there. He had a cheeseburger and milk at 7 a.m. at the whatever the little fancy breakfast place is at Michigan, sitting with this recruit and the recruiting director. And I think it's unbelievable. And again, I worked at Ohio State, and I worked with Truss, and I know he got dinged. I worked with Urban. But I mean, we had a compliance guy in our building, and it was like, I mean, you could screw up, and you obviously your trust, you had the tat gate and whatever else, and cost him his job. But I mean, they take compliance really seriously at Ohio State because again, I was a quality control coach, and man, every day they said, don't be out here coaching, don't be out here doing stuff that's gonna get us clipped, And I know it's ironic because of what happened with Coach Trust, but it is not. It's not lost on you if you break the rules and you get caught, like you're gonna get smashed. And Urban was real big on that, and it's just one of those deals where I couldn't imagine like having recruits on campus, and I mean that's just out and out, terrible. And again, that's what brought down Arizona State. Arizona State when they had Herm Edwards, I mean they broke every rule known to man. They were having kids on campus during dead periods, and to me, that is it's insane because these recruits they all talk and they all talk to media people and they talk to other recruits and like, oh, you went and visited Michigan, how'd you visit Michigan? Oh, well, you're not allowed to visit anybody right now, so that's the craziest thing about it, man, is it's the recklessness of the staff when they're doing something that everyone knows is illegal, especially during COVID. When the campuses were shut down, there were no camps, there was just nothing, and yet somehow you're still hosting kids. It's not because you have some sort of a magic portal; it's because you're breaking all the rules. And again, I uh, I think that this then you follow it up with Stallions, so they're already going to be in the blender, and then the Stallions stuff comes out because again, this all reeks of severe desperation. That's the thing about Jim Harbaugh is he was a guy that Sharon Moore, who he hate, or not, excuse me, Ward Manuel, who he hates, made him take a 50% pay cut on his salary. And like, Michigan, which has, billions of dollars laying around, said, hey, we think so little of you, you're gonna have to go from 8 to 4 million. Again, 4 million is a lot of money, but in college football coaching at a place like Michigan, it's not. And they made him take that pay cut and embarrass him publicly and everything else. So he wanted to dial it up as best he can to try to get his star back to where it needed to be so he could get out of there and go to LA, or go to LA, go to Denver, go to Minnesota, or any of the other franchises that were trying to interview him or talk to him. So yeah, this is phenomenal. And like for people to think this isn't going to be anything for Michigan, I mean, even Bayless is starting to turn on that because people say, is Sharon Moore going to get suspended? And I mean, yeah, I mean, how do you not get suspended when you destroy evidence and you're a repeat offender? I mean, if I got dinged for something, I'd be Prince Charming. I'd be doing everything right. And these guys they never got the photo. Nevada, what do you think's next? I mean, again, this thing's been dragging out, and this is still Cheeseburger Gate. This isn't even getting into the Stallion stuff, which is, in my opinion, 10 times worse. All illegal, but the Stallion stuff is just unheard of bad. What do you think are the next steps?
Well, I mean, when you talk to the guys at the NCAA like I do, they always remind me of just how this thing is without precedent, and how I think for people looking for precedent on this, or looking for something from the past about how something like this was handled, there's never been anything like this before. So when you can talk all you want about impermissible benefits, or about contact during a dead period, or giving a guy a t-shirt, or even misleading investigators, but there's never been something that went to the integrity of the game, that went to winning and losing of the games. And we've talked about using illegal players and the sanctions that are available for that, but this obviously is so much worse. I mean, this is orders of magnitude worse than using an ineligible player. And for Michigan to have done this, for Michigan to have done this so many times over such a long period of time, and so blatantly, um, it's really just kind of confounding to the Big Ten officials and to the NCAA officials, because it just reeks of audacity, and of a program out of control that didn't care about the ramifications of what they're doing. By damn, they were going to do it one way or another. And even when they're on probation, they dress Stallions up on in glasses, and put them on the sideline. And if you go back and read those innocuous tweets between Stallions and Sharon Moore, the ones that he deleted that said, "Oh, there's nothing in there." There's some stuff in there that if you read them pretty carefully, there's some stuff in there that talk about Central Michigan, that talk about Nebraska, and they talk about a lot of things that he was doing that it really stretches any type of common sense to believe that Sharon Moore didn't know exactly what was going on with Connor Stallions, and talking about his juicy reports, and again talking about stuff going on with Central Michigan and how people want to meet with them, and they want to do this and they want to do that. I mean, Sharon Moore knew. They know he knew, and whether he knew or not, it's not the NCAA's view. It doesn't matter whether the head coach at the time, Harbaugh, knew or not. He's responsible for it. So for Michigan, they're gonna get the brunt on all of this, but I think Michigan fans have been kind of whistling past the graveyard all the way down this thing, but it's now we're at the end of the road. I mean, now we're into the next 4 to 6 weeks, and there's going to be the hearing. And if the makeup of the committee, we haven't seen the final makeup of who's going to be hearing this guy. Like I haven't seen the final thing on that. But if it's the people that I think it's going to be, Michigan's in deep, deep trouble because these things used to be heard by a third-party arbitration board, and they're not anymore. And these are now NCAA people, and they're pretty much getting, from the profile of people that I've heard about, they're pretty much getting the hanging judges. So I think Michigan is going to get made an example out of, and rightfully so, because what they did was so egregious. And I think that obviously, if you look at the case, and I've said this a million times, but this is the thing I'll say to anybody who's a skeptic on this: if it was going to be a nothing burger, why would they take it all the way to the end? Why would they put themselves in the hand, of a infractions committee hearing? Why would they do that? No one with a brain would do that. Michigan, they're playing this thing out to the end because they are pot committed to the concept of NCAA overreach, and these are bad guys that are doing these bad things to us, that shouldn't have happened, because that's the only way that they can make their ways with the crazies and their thing. But it's all coming to a head now. So we're going to know here in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and you guys can have one big laugh and say, "Oh, Nevada, he was wrong on this whole thing. Oh, what a dummy." Or we've been telling you all along, watch this thing, because this is not going to be pleasant for Michigan, and they're not going to get out of this thing unscathed.
Yeah, because like the program can't go to the NFL. I mean, all these individual guys can go, but like the whole program can't leave. And like I said, they gave Sharon Moore a huge contract that he didn't really deserve because so that someone's gonna stay behind. It's like Bane in the Batman movie when like he's gotta have the one guy go down in the plane wreckage. That's what it is. So he's that guy, and it's gonna be great. Nevada, Ryan Day met with Ohio State today. Some of the folks that asked some really great questions, tongue in cheek, but he talked a little bit about Bo Atkinson, adding his size, his leadership, his toughness to the room. I think he was the best player in the second portal. You could say Nico, the quarterback, but like Bo, for like with his makeup and his ability, and for what we need with his size, I think he was the best player in this portal window. What are your thoughts on what he's going to bring to the table? Because I mean, Ryan was pretty glowing about him, and do you think he starts day one?
Well, he in Ohio State's opinion, he clearly was the number one player in the second portal window, and that's something we said before. So this isn't revisionist history of how we're changing the thing. And with the Nico thing, look, UCLA is getting Nico, but you're also getting the circus that's coming around Nico. And do you really want that? I mean, Bo is talented. 7.5 sacks as a sophomore is rare air. And if you compare it to the great defensive ends that we had here in Jack and JT, neither one of those guys was at 7.5 sacks as a sophomore. They both ended up being absolutely fantastic, legendary defensive ends for Ohio State. So no, this is a high character kid, incredible quality, incredible versatility, can play up and down the line, can play all three downs. And does he start day one? I don't know, just because the starting thing is such a weird thing, because to me, it's not about who starts, it's about who finishes. And I think they really plan to try to go deep and try to really work the rotations pretty significantly this year. And he's a significant. I mean, is he one of our best four defensive linemen right now? In my opinion, yes, he's one of our four best defensive linemen. But where you play him with Logan George and with Kenyatta and with Caden and with Cade McDonald and with Edric Houston, how you mix those guys up and who else kind of rises up over the summer, not sure. And so who are the first four? Not sure who that's going to be, but is he one of the best four? I don't think there's any question. He's one of the best four. And I think he's going to leave here like really good, like not just a player, but like a star player at Ohio State by the time he's done here. And I think that's what we got here in the second window.
Yeah, the more I watch this tape, the more that I think that he's probably our best defensive end all around. Again, I always talk about production because that's the thing about this portal. Because there were defensive tackles that jumped in, and kid from Syracuse, nice player, went to Texas, but he had 1 sack last year, 30 tackles. If we would have got him, that would have been great. We didn't. Texas got him. Am I terrified of that kid? No. I think that Texas is going to be an interesting case study because when you take five transfer portal defensive tackles in the winter and the spring combined, for one, that's a lot of money that you've spent. For two, I don't even know if any of your recruits are going to stick, or any of your kids. I mean, I would use that against them in recruiting like crazy because I mean, to bring in 5 guys at one position is nuts. And they even had a guy return that they weren't expecting to return. So yeah, like, is that money wasted? Is that something where you're going to have guys that are disgruntled? I don't know. But it kind of is what it is. Our guy Hero took off and went there, and he's probably either 4 or 5 out of the 5. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see how they keep managing this portal. I think they did a great job. Again, there were a lot of defensive tackles that jumped in. Stone from Oklahoma, obviously, was a kid that we knew. David Stone went back to Oklahoma after like 1 day in the portal. He would have been interesting to talk to. Might be a little bit of a head case. But the barrier there is that our 2 defensive tackles are elite players. Our 2 defensive ends, I think, are good players. So, when you're recruiting, Bo Atkinson and you're saying, hey, you have a real chance to start here. Which again, I know that they rotated defensive end and Logan George is going to play too. And you're going to have this, CJ Hicks, you're going to have 5-6 guys playing there. But, I mean, we need a guy that's big enough to stop the run. I think that was the biggest thing is on early downs. Like, why would you leave Caden Curry out there on first down? So they can run right at him when you could put Bo and Kenyatta and you have 2 6'6" defensive ends out there. It's a whole different ball of wax. You're going to go against bigger dudes, especially on first and second down, on the running downs. So like I said, I was kind of proud that we didn't overpay for Pikes, the kid that went to South Carolina. He was from a lesser program and not a lot of production. I think he's from Georgia Southern, young kid. He wouldn't have been a factor this year anyways. He'd have been a depth player, but we've got guys that are older players that are depth players that should be better than him. So again, do you want to spend on a guy that's a freshman, you're a young kid, and he can't really add any value to this year's team? Probably not. So again, I like not just that we know when to empty the clip to get a kid, but also that we know when to not just take a kid to take a kid, and the way they showed up the offensive line, I thought was great as well. I thought that they did some really nice jobs getting the kid from West Virginia, from Pickerington, and that's those things all add up, especially with the season. And I think Ryan, he mentioned today that the 105 thing, which could or could not pass, so that's something that's going through courts right now, might not pass, is probably one of the hardest things he's ever had to manage, because if they cap the total roster at 105, then you have to cut kids, like literally cut, and you've never had to cut kids in the history of college football, but you'd have to do that now. So that's why I felt like a lot of these walk-ons left, is because if that cap becomes implemented, kids got to go. There's no, like in the past at Ohio State, we'd have 120, 125, 130. There was never like some magic number that we capped it at. But now it's like there literally could be a hard cap of 105. And again, like, Ryan, I can't imagine how hard it is to tell some of these walk-ons that, hey, if they cap our roster, we're not going to have room for you for the season. And we might have to cut you in July and you can't transfer. So you might want to transfer now and make sure that you have a home somewhere. That had to be incredibly difficult, but Ryan did it, and he's, that's not one of the fun parts of being a college football coach. Like, you get to win national championships and you get a lot of great stuff, but telling a kid, and a lot of these walk-ons are the salt of the earth greatest kids in the world, telling them that, hey, we might not have a spot on the roster for you at the college level is something we've literally never had to do. So that stinks. Nevada, your thoughts on that? 'Cause again, the roster thing is so fluid. But I don't blame these walk-ons who want to play football next year for getting out of here. And I'm sure it was a tough decision, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, the walk-on's been such a integral part of college football, in general, in Ohio State in particular. So many great stories of those guys. You just wonder, is that going the way of the dodo? Is that stuff not going to happen anymore? And we're not going to see those Rudy like stories in terms of guys doing that. And so it'll be interesting to see, how the court thing is kind of winding down. They're kind of getting to the kind of the fine, tooth combs on this thing in terms of, exactly how many players can you keep, how much money you can have, how, NIL's going to be, situated. And I still believe they need some sort of congressional or government oversight in this thing, because otherwise there's just going to be continuous nonstop court challenges to it. And I just don't see how that's fruitful or productive for anybody else. But yeah, for the for Ryan, that is going to be tough because you like you said, you've never had to cut at Ohio State before. Guys came out and they played and they kept them around in terms of they could always do that. But now, managing to a number like that, look, there's always good and there's bad. The good news is we're going to be able to stockpile more offensive linemen like we're doing. The bad news is you're going to lose some of those great walk-on development stories that are so special and kind of made college football so special. Look, Texas A&M has that whole thing with the 12th man and the kickoff team that was all walk-ons that was covering kicks and stuff like that, and that stuff will go bye-bye. So I always wonder about the law of unintended consequences thing when you lose some of that charm of college football and it moves towards more of a professionalization model, how that's going to impact people and impact Ohio State. But Ryan seems to be managing it well and staying on top of it. So I think we're in good hands.
Well, I think that you could probably, you could categorize this as like an overreaction to the fact that I think that without the cap, people thought that you'd have these 125 team scholarship, teams, where you've got 125, guys that are on scholarship all on one team. And in reality, like Ohio State's at 85 right now, and they might go to 90, is what Ryan Day said, and maybe 90, maybe 95 at the absolute tops. But the problem is you have to the revenue sharing is coming. So if you have 120 guys, then the pie gets split up a little thinner than if you have 85 guys, and that's something that'll get used against you in recruiting. And for two, I mean the finances of having another 25, another 20 scholarships or whatever. If you go from 85 to 105, it's significant. That's real money. Those guys, each scholarship's probably close to $100,000 a year at least. That's with room, tuition, books, out of state, and then all the meals and the insurance and everything else, and medical, all the stuff that you get when you're a student athlete at Ohio State. You get it might even be 150. It's expensive. So it's an interesting time right now because again, I knew so many incredible walk-ons that played and were great kids, and that part of the game is kind of going away. And honestly, and I mean this, like the program can't really function without a bigger roster with 120. You can do it. Obviously in the NFL, you practice with 50. When I played, there were 53 guys plus. We had 8 guys on practice squad, so we had 61 guys out of practice, and somehow we were able to do it. But college, it's like you've got 120, and you've got you can get a lot of work done because like half the team goes down here, the other half the team goes down here, and you can get your scout team work in. The season's long, guys get hurt. I don't know. I don't envy Ryan and Mark Pantoni for trying to build this roster right now with these caps that are either on or off. I think it's something that's, and again, you're right. This is why they need to expand, and it just has to become the SEC and the Big Ten, and they have to have a commissioner, and they have to have a governor that rules everything. Because college football, it's the only major sport where there isn't one governing person. There isn't a Roger Goodell or an Adam Silver or Rob Manfred, whoever. There isn't like a guy who is okay. This is what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna do it. There isn't, the league coming together and voting on rules. Like that's what stinks, because again, it dramatically is different for the Ohio States versus like the Bowling Greens of the world. So the quicker we get to the expansion, and it's just the SEC and the Big Ten, I think the better it'll be for college football. Nevada, this was another great one. I got asked about Julian Sain and Lincoln Keenholz, and does he have any, is there any inkling? Is anybody ahead? And Ryan, of course, said no. They were completely even coming out of spring, which is funny because it's impossible. There's always someone that has a leg up at this point in time. But that's traditional coach speak. Were you surprised by that? I'm sure you weren't. But with Julian and the way he finished the spring, what's your take on the quarterback race at this point?
Well, I'm going to give you what may be a hot take, but I don't think it's a hot take. But, with all the talk about Arch Manning this year at Texas, I'm going to say it right now. Julian Saints is going to be better than Arch Manning this year. And so do I think there's a quarterback derby at Ohio State? I don't. Do I think it's smart for Ryan Day to keep the hope alive until fall? I do. And do you need a backup, a capable backup quarterback when you're going to a 16, 17 game schedule? You do. So I think Ryan's handling this the right way. But I mean, Julian's just a different cat. He's a different cat. He's got a different way of delivering the ball. The ball just comes out of his hands so easily. He's so precise. He's so smart. He's such a fast processor. And I mean, I don't want to put the jinx of whatever on him, but I really think he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks in all of college football this year. Partly because of the weapons and the people that are around him. I love when I hear people go, "Oh, he does better when he has good weapons around him." Well, yeah, that goes for every quarterback that's ever played the game. They play better when they have better weapons around them. So, do I think that Julian Sain will play better with good weapons? Yeah, for sure. And Brian Hartline's going to put him in good spots, and he's got a great offensive line. And Ryan Day is the quarterback whisperer. So, yeah, was not surprised to hear it. But Julian Saint's the guy, and I think he's going to be really, really, really good in this year.
Yeah, and Julian's got the pedigree. I mean, again, when we do these picks, I mean, he was the Elite 11 champion and 5 stars. So, I mean, and he's going to grow. I mean, he's still young. He's younger than Lincoln. So, this is a big summer for him. It's a huge summer for him. He's got to get with those guys like Will Howard did and throw at night and get the timing down and study film with these guys and be next to Billy Fessler and Ryan Day as much as possible. I know that those coaches are out on the road during the month of May. This is a big time road warrior trip for these coaches. But yeah, I mean, that's how you got to earn your stripes with this program is you got to go put in the work and you got to get JJ to trust you and get all these guys to trust you. Because I talk to players and I mean, they say he's got a better arm than Lincoln. Now, he's not as big as Lincoln. He's not maybe as athletic as Lincoln, but he throws the ball better. And again, that was completely non-biased, completely because I said, hey, down to the brass tacks, like, who's got a better arm? Julian, more explosive, and he's got a quicker delivery too. So, I mean, you add those up and he's ultra cerebral, computer processor type brain, 5-star kid, won the Elite 11. Like I like all that in my quarterback. And again, you can't talk about a quarterback and say, well, he's better because he has great weapons. I mean, Peyton Manning's a top 5 quarterback ever, and he had Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne, who are 2 Hall of Fame receivers. He had a Hall of Fame tight end in Dallas Clark. He had a Hall of Fame running back in Edgerrin James. So, that's part of it. I mean, you look at Pat Mahomes, who's probably the second best quarterback ever. He's got Kelsey, who's first ballot Hall of Famer, probably the second best tight end that's ever lived behind Gronk. That's part of it, man. Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. So, you want to go somewhere where you've got great weapons, and that's why Ohio State will always be appealing to quarterbacks. Something else that was interesting is that he did name Austin Sareveld a starter today. He did not say where, and by he, I mean Ryan Day. He did not say where. I would put in ink that he's going to be our right tackle. I just don't see how you don't ride with. It's like I've said 1,000 times this offseason. The 4 guys that you rode to the national title, Luke Montgomery, Carson Hinsman, Tigre Discabola, and Austin Seyerveld. Like, those guys need to start week one, against Texas. If you want to monkey around and get Phillip Daniels in there at right tackle and put Austin at guard and try different combinations, you could do that when we play Grambling or whoever we play week 2 or week 3. But like week 1, I mean, Ethan Onyanwa is going to be a phenomenal left tackle for us. And then the other 4 guys are the guys that start in the playoffs. So, I mean, that's how you sleep at night when you're Ryan Day. And he talked a lot about how that trio of offensive line coaches, which is something I loved, was a phenomenal development kit. Because again, when you've got 17 offensive linemen, I mean, that warrants having 3 coaches. And again, we've got 3 of them, and they're all guys that were full-time coaches last year at different places. And I thought that was brilliant by Ryan. I mean, we've got the money, let's spend it. And having 3 line coaches that all speak the same language is something that I think is going to be a humongous development point for Ohio State going forward. Nevada, your thoughts on Austin Seyerveld? Because I think that he's going to be a captain sooner than later. He's a rock. He's a tough kid, man, and he's going to have a really good career here. But your thoughts on Austin getting named a starter today?
Yeah, again, cautionary tale. Austin commits to Ohio State. People aren't that excited. I don't remember 3-star, high 3-star, low 4-star, whatever, but you just never know. You just never know with offensive linemen, and he was great last year. Much like Carson Hinzman. I mean, Carson, people don't know on the offensive line, and that even goes to Ohio State. I mean, think about where Ohio State was and where they considered those 2 guys last year. They didn't think that highly of him, and they certainly didn't think that highly of Hinsman. They only went to him because they were forced to by, devastating injuries on the inside, and they went to him and he becomes one of your best players on the offensive line, like we knew he would be. So, it's hard to evaluate offensive linemen. I totally agree with you that the interior 4 that you rode to the national title last year deserved to start. And then you throw Big Ethan out there at left tackle. And I think that's one of the best offensive lines in the country. I don't know who else is out there, but I can't imagine one that's more experienced or more capable. And for Ohio State, you've got just tons and tons and tons of guys behind it that are developmental dudes. So I like where Ohio State's sitting in the offensive line. I like where Ohio State's sitting in the offensive line probably now better than any time in the time I've been covering Ohio State. And I think we have more depth, more quality depth, more proven depth. And the good news is, with the exception of Ethan, it's all coming back for 2026. So as good as 2025 is going to be on the offensive line, you're really going to be getting 2026. So, as for an Ohio State fan, this year's just an appetizer, and in my view, 2026 is going to be the main course.
Yeah, and Austin, it's so funny. I want to make sure I had this right, but Austin was in the class of 2023. Really nice class, along with Luke and some other guys. And it's funny because like that was like Samson Okunlowa's class. Samson Okunlowa has 0 career starts at Miami. He was a 5-star kid. Everybody wanted him. Commits to Miami. It's like the end of days. And Austin Seyerveld turns out is a way better player than Samson Okunlowa is. And Samson Okunlowa is not even slated to start at Miami this year, let alone start last year. And did, like I said, I've said it a lot, but on this show, I've talked a lot about how the last drive of Oregon, when it was, the absolute zenith of pressure, I'm talking about the first Oregon game at Altson, Tigre gets hurt, Austin goes in there, and he shuts down Harmon, the kid that just went to the Steelers at 21 overall in the draft. And it's passing situations. So Harmon's going to be bringing his best pass rush moves, and he hits Austin with a spin and some moves, and Austin just absolutely eats him alive, shuts him down, and that's a 1st-round pick in a loud environment, coming off the bench cold, and he clamps the dude. And I'm just like, this kid's really good, because again, he has every reason in the world to fold like a cheap tent in that situation. You're going against the best player in their defense, and you're cold, and million excuses, and he shut him down, man. And I was like, this kid needs to play. He needs to start. Again, I know whatever. I'm not going to say anything about Tegra, but he was much better than Tegra. And for whatever reason, they started Tegra all year. The same with Carson Hinzman, who rode the bench for the beginning of the year and came in and saved our bacon, down the stretch. But, it just shows how much depth we had, that we had 2 players that were actually better than the starters on the bench. And even Luke Montgomery, who came in the playoffs and started playing. And I thought that was the craziest thing of all time when they said that they were going to rotate Luke in versus Tennessee. And he got in there, man. He was fantastic. I mean, balled out versus, as good of a defensive line as there was in the country. They had a first round end and a bunch of really good players, a bunch of draft picks. So, yeah, I mean, turns out the O-line recruiting actually was pretty good. And again, when I talk about recruiting in every metric going forward, I combine the recruiting from high school and the transfer portal, period. Because that's how it works now. It's like, you want to talk about the Cleveland Browns offseason, you have to talk about the draft and you have to talk about free agency. And that's how it goes for every NFL team. Who won the offseason? The team that signed the best players and also drafted the best players. That's where I'm at with recruiting. Because again, Justin Fry, who got flogged to death, got Josh Simmons, who is as talented as, we've had Paris and him back to back, and that's as talented as we've had, outside of Orlando. So you got to give him credit for that. When I got Seth McLaughlin last year, Seth McLaughlin wasn't even honorable mention All SEC as a junior, and he turned him into a Remington winner, consensus All-American. So pretty good. All right, Nevada, we can get into some super chats. B Moses, what is up, brother? I hope you're good, my friend. B Moses, thanks for the advice to stop hammer time. It breaks out the MC Hammer typewriter dance. I love it. Hashtag culture of corruption. Nevada, your thought on B Moses and breaking out the hammer time dance, because the hammer is a coming.
Yeah, well, first of all, B Moses, one of our great posts, great podcasters on the network, and we just appreciate you so much. Yeah, no, look, the hammer's coming. When you're throwing, I mean, the NCAA is throwing around 2-year show causes and 1-year show causes like chiclets. And what are you going to get when it comes down to this gigantic scandal for Michigan? I mean, it's coming. And I think the NCAA, I think slash know that the NCAA is laying the foundation, for them to hammer the program that they deem to be out of control. And I think this is just they're doing it. They're doing it in steadies. It's a steady drip, drip. And how does it happen? A little first and all at once. Where all at once is coming and coming soon.
Yeah, and B Moses is a stud. He's with Funk on Sunday nights leading into our show from 6 to 7. So make sure you guys take care of our boys. Make sure you guys tune into his show. He does a great job. But yeah, it's been a very bad time for the old Wolverines. This is one of my favorite things in the world. Dave Buckeye Lead, thanks for being an Ultra member, and thanks for the 10. I appreciate you, my friend. Please do not use a Ward manual picture to promote the show moving forward. It was tough looking at that for a while, waiting for you to come on at Nevada OH. I think that most of you guys have figured out that every time we do a Michigan show, I look for a fat Ward manual photo, and that's our thumbnail, like every time. It's kind of like when people said, can you stop putting massive in the title? And so when people say, oh, you use massive and oh, it must trigger some algorithm or whatever. So I decide, well, okay, we're going to use it in every single title forever going forward. And we're also going to put it on a t-shirt and sell it. So, as soon as someone's like, man, I hate that, then, ooh, boy, do we lean into that really good. Because, I mean, I'm running out of Fat Ward manual photos, but, so I'm getting into the ones where he's in Yukon and stuff, and we don't want that. So some have been reused because when he looks especially heavy, I just think that it's hilarious to have his photo on our thumbnail because, people love to see Ward on the front of it. But Nevada, your thoughts. Again, Dave, I appreciate you so much, my dude. Thanks for being an ultra member. He says, please do not use a Ward manual photo to promote the show moving forward. It's tough looking at that for a while, waiting for you to come on. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, if people haven't figured out yet, we love trolling Michigan.
Oh my God.
There's nothing that we love more than doing that. And the Fat Ward manual photos is definitely part of the troll job. And I know Kirk spends literally about 9 hours a day looking for Fat Ward manual photos on the internet right now. So don't think we find these by accident, man. That guy works. He's working and he's
working hard.
He's burning the midnight oil on the Fat Ward manual photos, and he'll come up with another one when we hit the next Michigan day. And when the hammer hits, we're gonna have just like a montage of Fat Ward manual photos. So get ready for it. Buckle up.
Yes, we are. Real quick, I'm going to say this because I said this at the end of the show yesterday, and I've had people texting me and people emailing us. Our store is open right now, and I just checked the hyperlink. Rep the Scoop, REPTHE Scoop SCOOP.com will take you right here. And if that is something you can't do, go to our Twitter or our X feed, Buckeye Scoop. It is pinned at the very top tweet to get to our real snazzy. This is a great store. We got the Urban. This has been really hard to get. This white one will sell out because white Nike pullovers it's like finding a thing of like gold or something, like platinum. Like they run out of them, out of stock. So order that thing quick because I've been trying to get this in for 2 years, and this is the first time they've actually had it. Supply chain, whatever. So the white Urban Meyer quarter zip is in, and I love that one. That thing is Urban Ward on Big Ten Network, and people started blowing me up for that. Again, we've got the national championship gear. We got the hoodies, we got the t-shirts, got the gold flake font. I love the Carhartt hoodie. The Carhartt hoodie is my favorite I've ever worn. It's great quality. It's super heavy duty. I wear mine all the time. It's literally the best. So I'm gonna order a bunch of those because the Carhartt they make just a great hoodie. We're doing kind of a blackout theme, so we've got black font on black. We'll get back to the other stuff, but people requested this, so we got this with the black flag. I like the black on black look. I think it looks sick. I've seen some of the blanks that have been printed. I'm gonna get one of these. I like the stealth look. I think it looks amazing. We got a t-shirt. We have another hoodie, and we also are gonna add a flag. I gotta get a flag in there, and I'm working to add a Scoop Hat It for a shirt. So this thing closes in a couple of weeks. So it says May 22nd. So I just want to give you guys the deadline. You'll order the stuff after the store closes. They'll print it. So give us about 4 weeks to get in lead time to get everything to you. But it's really good gear, and I just wanted to let you guys know where it is. So again, repthescoop.com, REPTHESCOOP.com takes you right to the store. Really easy to check out, and our gear is amazing. I mean, I wear our Buckeye Scoop gear every day, so it's like I said, it's something that I get a lot of questions about gear, and again, we try to keep the prices low. We just want to make sure that you guys can get it, rock it. It's more important that you guys are rocking it and enjoying it. So again, we appreciate you guys. So cop that gear. I mean, the Urban quarter zip is the best. I'm sure I'll get hot sauce on it or something, but it looks good, at least the first time I put it on. But after that, it's kind of like, who knows? Rory McLeod, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you. Thanks for being an Ultra member as well. Michigan fans, stop saying the Buckeyes could not beat your team. They did not beat your team. The Buckeyes went on to beat 4 teams way better than Michigan. Yeah, I mean, it's, like the regular season of college football is still amazing, but winning the national championship is all that matters. For Ohio State fans, and again, we won big 1 versus 2 Texas games and everything else, but the national championship is all that matters, like in my mind. So we've got scoreboard. We've superseded their 2024 fake national championship that's going to get vacated, and life is good to be a Buckeye. Nevada, your thoughts? Again, Roy, I appreciate you, and thanks for the 5. He says, University of Michigan fans, stop saying the Buckeyes could not beat your team. They did not beat your team. The Buckeyes went on to beat 4 teams way better than Michigan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, for me, that whole thing's erased, and I know there's a segment of the fan base that doesn't agree with that, and I get it. But to me, I I don't know if we win the national championship if we win that game. If we win that game, we play Oregon in the Big Ten championship. We probably see Oregon again at some time in the playoff, playing teams 3 times. Really, really hard to do. Not sure if we have the same edge, the same desperation on the part of the coaches and the players. And how can you argue with it, considering the fact that we had the greatest 4-game run of any team's ever had in history, that things wouldn't have been different had we won? So I just look at it as things happen the way they were supposed to. And I thank Michigan for that loss, because it provided us with the impetus to go on that run. And as you said, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is the natty, and we got the natty, and I haven't stopped smiling since.
Yeah, I like the natty because we made Buckeye Scoop national championship hoodies that look amazingly like a certain other brand's hoodies. Tim Z, thanks for the 5. Didn't Jim Harbaugh accuse Ryan Day of committing recruiting violations during COVID? I think that he accused him of practicing or something, or doing. He accused him of something because that's where the whole "I'm going to hang 100 on his behind" thing came from. Is because they were on some conference call and Jim Harbaugh, who of course is the biggest liar in the history of mankind, accused Ryan Day of doing something, and that's what got Ryan all steamed up a little bit. So I think that that's how it went. Nevada, your thoughts? Did Jim Harbaugh accuse Day of committing recruiting violations during COVID? I thought it was some sort of an on the field activity with the current players, but I could be wrong. It's been it's literally been like 5 years now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember there was an incident. I remember there was an accusation levied. I don't remember the particulars on it. Like you said, what you're saying seems to have the ring of authenticity for me, but I'll have to go back and check. But yeah, there was an accusation levied, and Ryan reacted strongly. But that's the way it is when people are saying stuff. The people that say stuff are generally the ones that are the worst offenders about it. And this was just another case where that's true, where Michigan's accusing Ohio State of cheating, knowing all along that, I mean, Jim Harbaugh got broken by Ryan Day, by Urban Meyer, and by Ohio State, and decided he just didn't care, but they were going to do whatever they had to do to win, and they did it. To their credit, they won. To their eternal shame, they did it the worst possible way, ruined the brand of Michigan, and they're going to pay a heavy price. And as you said, all those wins are going to be vacated anyway, and so it's all going to be erased, and that'll be a great day.
All right, so this is from Outkick the Coverage. This is from August 5th of 2020, and it says Ryan Day versus Jim Harbaugh gets heated on a conference call. An insider says. So this was from an insider on the internet says that there was. Let me see. So this is when Al Washington left Michigan to come to Ohio State. So Jim was all upset, and yeah, I'm trying to see if it talks about what it was, because I remember it was something like he accused Ryan of having practices or something or doing stuff on the field at a time when you weren't allowed to. So that's what it was. Again, that article did not have what I needed, but I'd bet a pretty good amount, because I remembered it was something like Ryan was practicing or doing illegal coaching at a time when you're not allowed to, and that was the genesis of it. And I don't know if Jim brought it up or he was like trying to like snitch or whatever, and that's where the heat came from. So yeah, it was an interesting time, August of 2020 during COVID, when no one was allowed to really do anything, and it turns out Michigan was doing everything. That's the greatest part ever, is Jim Harbaugh was accusing Ryan of doing stuff all while he was actually doing stuff. So the irony is very thick. Thanks for the Jay. Thanks for the deuce. What's going on with the recent D-line portal misses? Well, I mean, if you break this down, the kid that went to Texas from Syracuse, I don't know if he was a miss. I think that we got the biggest fish. Like, Bo Atkinson is better than the kid that went to Texas from Syracuse. I'm sorry. He's so, I mean, again, look at the production. I'm big on production. Give me a guy with 7.5 sacks in the ACC last year. Sign me up. 6'6", great kid, great family, loves Larry Johnson, kind of the whole shebang that Ryan Day went through today. I'll take that kid over anyone. So I think that we landed the biggest fish. The hardest part is, and I mean this sincerely, a lot of these kids think that they're more valuable than they actually are. And the problem with that is that there are some teams that are so desperate that they will actually pay way more than the kid's worth, like Texas. Like, Texas is just buying these kids. And I think that, when I heard the number that the kid from Syracuse got, I was like, well, I'm glad we didn't pay that, because I don't think he's that good. I mean, he's good, but the problem with our defensive tackles is that our these kids that are transferring from Syracuse to Texas or to Ohio State, they want to start, and they want to be guaranteed they're going to start, and they're not better than Edric Houston or Caden McDonald. They're just not. Now, can you say that Bo Atkinson might be better than Caden Curry? You can make an argument there. Could you let Caden be the ceremonial starter for the games and Bo Atkinson play the same amount of snaps or so? Sure, whatever. However, guys, and there's still a rotation, but when kids want to guarantee to be the starter, it's just not going to work when you have Edric Houston and you have Caden McDonald. And plus, if you give this kid this much money, like what's Edric Houston worth, who was the number one recruit in the country last year on defense? And what's, Caden McDonald, who is the best nose guard in the country, what's he worth? So it's a slippery slope. I know that people get upset when we don't get everybody, the Troy Pikes kid or whatever that went to South Carolina, like just a guy. I mean, go look at his stats at Georgia Southern last year. He couldn't even get on the field there, and would he be now again, would he have been a guy that we would take as a development body and a guy that we could keep for 3 years of eligibility? Sure. But he's more like the kid from Hilliard, or excuse me, the kid from Pickerington, Justin Terry, who we got from West Virginia. Like, we're not counting on that kid to play this year. We're counting on him to develop. And if he turns into a player, great. If not, he didn't cost us any NIL money, or he cost us very little NIL money. And he's back home, dreams of being a Buckeye. Again, that's the beauty of Ohio State, is you can use that magnet of, hey, we didn't offer you the first time, but the second time we'll take you because we need a tackle so the kid can get in the door. And like I tell these guys, once you're in the Woody Hayes and you're a player, everybody gets the same stuff. You get the same shorts and the same workout shoes and the same jerseys, and then you got to go do it. You got to go beat the guys out that might have been taken ahead of you or offered a scholarship ahead of you or might be getting paid more than you now. But once you're on that field, like that, it's not like you get like an NIL, baseball bat that you get to get out there and beat people with. Like, once you're on the field, it's all equal. So go prove you're better. If you think you're worth more money, then go prove it out on the grass. Super easy to do. Nevada, your thoughts? Thank you, Jay, for the deuce. What is going on with the recent D-line portal misses, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, look, when the portal, you always got to remember, when a kid enters the portal, some kids enter the portal because they want to be a starter. Some kids enter the portal because they want to get the most money. Um, Everybody's got a different motivation. So what we try to do is we try to avail you to all the kids that are in the portal that Ohio State might have an interest in. And then you kind of cull down, and we try to drill down on who are the realistic candidates for it. And, for us, we've been pretty steadfast that Bo Atkinson was the number one. I mean, he was the number one guy. Would I like to have the guy from Syracuse, the defense? Sure. Would I like to have him? But the reality is you're not going to get them all. Just like you're not going to get every recruit that you go after. But the Ohio State brand, I will say unequivocally, has never been stronger than it is right now. It might have been as strong, but it's never been stronger. It's never been held in a higher esteem, or never cooler with the kids, or displaying more, stability and quality. We just came off having 14 guys drafted in the NFL. We have the best offensive player in the country next year, and JJ, the best defensive player, and Caleb Downs. I mean, we're the hot team. We're the now team. So if we lose a guy, it's not about the guys. I've always said this a million times. It's not about the guys you miss on that kill you. It's the ones that you get that can't play that kill you. And we got a guy in Bo Atkinson that can really play. So we score. So we won the second portal window for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and to kind of adjust, and again, that's a great saying when you say that it's the guys that you take that can't play. Because every time you say that, I think of 25 guys that I played with that they just weren't Ohio State material, but we didn't have a way to get rid of them. You were stuck with them. So that's like the beauty about now. And this is why Ohio State will never not be incredibly strong, is you can cut, again, it's like poker. You guys like to play poker. When you throw away the cards that you don't want, that don't make sense, like you're not going to throw away your 3 aces, but you're going to throw away your offsuit stuff or whatever and try to get that 4th ace. Like that's kind of where we're at. And we had guys that, frankly, I didn't like, that I played with, and I know the brotherhood's real and everything, but if guys, and again, it's not about talent, it's not about ability, it's not about, well, he never started a game, but there were guys that once they figured out that they weren't going to play here, like they got beat out by a younger player or whatever, they just mailed it in, and they just did as little as possible. They would do enough to make sure they didn't get in trouble and make sure they still get their sweatsuit and they still get their scholarship check every 2 weeks or whatever. But, they just never really pushed it to be a level where they could really contribute. And again, I hate average. Like there's one thing about me, if you guys know me, I don't mess with average. I hate average. We fire average people at Buckeye Scoop. We send them to the toilet because they're not worth being here. Because we want exceptional, and that's what we are. And it's the same thing with roster management now, where it's like, if you're Mark Pantoni and you take a kid that turns out to be a bad egg or he can't play, Ryan's gonna have that hard conversation. Hey, look, this place isn't for you. We'll do nothing but help you find a new home. And they've done that. And again, like when you can clean out the bottom of that roster, you get those second and third year guys that really can't play at an Ohio State national championship level. It's the greatest thing in the world, because you're going to bring in some kids that you can, okay, let's evaluate these kids now. Let's evaluate, Justin Terry. Let's evaluate these kids. So can this kid be a player down the road for us? And I just like, I'm so happy that it's like this, because there's such a huge advantage for Ohio State, because you're going to get kids like that are these Ohio kids that end up at Michigan State or Boston College or West Virginia or Pitt or Indiana, and they'll come back here. They're not going to cost a ton in the NIL because they want to be Buckeyes and they want to have a shot to prove they can play here. Because once you get out on that field, man, it's the ultimate proving ground, and you gotta prove that you're a real enough dude to play here, and not just play here, but play well. Because I always tell people, it's not enough just to play at Ohio State. It's not enough just to wear the jersey. You have to play well. You have to play really well, play exceptionally well. Because then you've had a successful career. Just to go out there and run out of the tunnel and stand there, it's not for for the exceptional folk. But I don't think I honestly thought we had a really good D-line portal, because again, it's not worth overpaying for a kid that's not going to start. And if you're going to pay him, I always tell you, when you pay one of these kids, if you pay some kid $1 million and then you look at what other guys are getting and they're like, well, I want this, or whatever. So I mean, there's and the way that roster is structured, because I know what pretty much every kid is getting paid in NIL right now. They've been masterful at keeping kids here who could be making much more elsewhere, because the culture is good. They want the development. And again, if you lose out on $100,000 or a couple $100,000, which is still a ton of money, but you get to go to the league. Like we said, 14 guys go to the league this past weekend, not to mention the 3 kids that went on. We had 17 guys from last year's team sign NFL, or they will sign NFL deals. The undrafted guys signed their contracts. The guys that got drafted they'll have their contracts done in like a week or two, because everything's slotted now. There's no negotiation. So it's a place to be. If you want the highest APR in the history of college football, we got that. We won a national title. We put more guys into the NFL. We sent more guys to the combine. Great academics. I just don't know what else you could possibly want. Head coach has a long-term extension. Got a young staff that's developing. I just happy where this program's heading. Jay Willie, 75, thanks for the 5. If I'm Ryan Day, I do everything to keep Lincoln as our backup while keeping Julian as the starter. And St. Clair is too young and Lincoln is a good backup. Well, I mean, he's locked in now, man. Again, when Ryan Day said that he cracked a beer on Friday night, that was literally because of Lincoln Keenholz. And again, Lincoln, I don't think he was ever looking, but these guys all have agents. They're all checking around. What are the waters? Again, if you're Lincoln, if you're going to leave somewhere, you have to be guaranteed that you're going to start and you have to get paid. So I don't know how hard he looked at it. But he's right in this mix now. Now, I think Julian Sain is going to be the starter versus Texas, but if Julian breaks a shoestring, like Lincoln's out there. If he sprains an ankle, then Lincoln's playing the whole game. And so, there would be nothing more wretched if you're Lincoln Keenholz than to transfer to a much lesser school, and then Julian sprains an ankle, and all of a sudden you've got Tavian out there instead of you. When you could be the guy out there throwing it to J.J. Smith and Max Clare and Carnell Tate and running that offense. Because again, these guys leave like Devin Brown was a Cal, and he's a really nice kid, and his whole running back room transferred. They lost 4 running backs in the transfer portal, Cal Berkeley. So, again, it's not, again, he wants to go play and start, which I totally understand, but that's tough. When you're at Ohio State, like you've got a loaded up roster, and if they hand you the key to the Ferrari, man, all you got to do is, keep it between keep the rubber on the road, and you're going to be in good shape. Nevada, again, Jay Willie 75, thanks for the 5. He says, if I'm Ryan Day, I do everything to keep Lincoln as our backup while keeping Julian as the starter. Tavian St. Clair is too young and Lincoln is good backup. What are your thoughts?
No, yeah, you're exactly right. When Ryan was expressing relief about the portal window closing, he was talking about Lincoln. And so that was all about Lincoln, all about, how happy he was that he kept him around, because we'd be in a pickle if he'd have transferred, and that's the danger you run with quarterbacks right now, because it's a position where only one guy plays, and you want to keep multiples around, so you want to store them, you want to stack them up, but guys want to play. So I expect there to be more quarterback drama in the future, because it's just the nature of the position. But we dodged a bullet this year in the portal window, and good on Ryan Day for handling that.
Yeah, and again, well, if you're a quarterback, it's the most unique. It's like being a kicker. Again, when there's only one guy out there, it's a different universe. I can't relate to that being an offensive tackle, because if I played there and they went out and got Corey Stringer in the transfer portal, like I would be learning how to play guard or center. Like, I mean, but when you're a quarterback, it's not, the skills aren't as transferable as if you're an offensive lineman and you're trying to get the best five guys on the team. So, but I give Lincoln kudos. I think that, again, Mickey Marotti's called him fast switch Joe Burrow, which is, that's gaudy. I mean, obviously I think that might be a little much, but that's what he thinks of him. And the kid's a crazy athlete and he's a beast. And, like I said, this is going to be a good competition. I think Julian's going to win it, but I like when there's a neck and neck competition, because the guy's got to stay sharp. No one's going to get handed anything. Christopher Davis, thanks for the 5. How do you think the wide 9 will impact our run and pass defense, Nevada OH? My neck still hurts from blocking the wide 9 in Detroit. The Detroit Lions, when I was there with Jim Schwartz, who loves the wide 9, and he does it in Cleveland with Myles Garrett a lot. He loved the wide 9. And the wide 9, it's so funny, because I talked to Jack Sawyer and his folks, and they're so excited about going to Pittsburgh, because he's going to be playing outside linebacker, a stand-up guy, same as TJ Watt. And they like to wide those guys out a lot, man. And it's like they put them out in space, and they can set that edge, and it really changes what you can do in the running game when there's a wide line. Now, the flip of it is there's a lot more space for the linebackers to cover. So there can be some big holes, but it puts the tackle in a bind, especially in pass protection, because if a guy's not real confident with his footwork and his speed playing tackle, and he's got to go against CJ Hicks in all that space, it's tough, and that's something that, like Jim Knowles had the best defense in school history last year. And we really did a good job of caging the quarterback and keeping guys in the pocket. But it really limits the amount of freedom that these guys have in the pass rush. Now, we changed it down the stretch a little bit so these guys could get a little bit more juice in the pass rush, but the wide 9's hard to go against. I mean, because when you got a guy who can fly like CJ, it's like manna from heaven to have. And so what a wide 9 is, just because I hate when people say football vernacular, and 80% of my audience has no idea what it is. It basically means that the defensive end lines up really wide outside of the tackle. A 9 technique is basically like the outside shoulder of a tight end. But if a tight end isn't there, it's like you line up on a ghost tight end on his outside shoulder. So you're super wide, which gives you a great angle for pass rushing. It's really easy to set the edge on a tackle, because you can't reach, which is when you get outside of a defensive end. You can't do that versus a 9 technique. He's too wide. He's automatically unreachable. So I think it'll be like for a guy like Jack Sawyer, he would have been in heaven. JT with his spin move in heaven. Defensive ends that are fast, they like to widen out. They like to get out on the edge. They want to threaten tackles with speed. If the tackle isn't fast enough to get back, then he's going to beat him around the corner and kill the quarterback. So for guys like CJ, Logan George, Caden, for Caden Curry, I think it's going to be great, because Caden his enemy is size. His attribute is speed. That's where he has an advantage, is when he gets to get out on the edge and use his speed versus guys, because that's where he's his best. If he's got to be in tight on guys and can get engulfed, that's where it gets tough for him. So I love it, especially in the pass rush. The running game, it just makes it into kind of like a 3-4 defense, but you're using it with 4 down guys. So, but I've never met a defensive end that doesn't like playing out wide in a wide 9. Like, so it's those guys are going to be real excited to run it, and I'm excited to see Matt Patricia implement it. And that won't be like an exclusive thing, but it'll be something that we'll throw as like a curveball, which I think will be great. Nevada, your thoughts on the wide 9 defensive end alignment, and how will it impact our run and pass defense?
Well, it's going to be different. I mean, and again, just I appreciate you simplifying it. Basically, it's that defensive end not playing straight up on the tackles, playing outside, and obviously you're leaving bigger gaps on the inside. You're leaving more room for your linebackers to have to cover. But you're creating more edge and more angles for you to get out after the quarterback, like most of those NFL teams do. So it's going to be different. I think that's going to be one of the key attributes that Matt Patricia's bringing in when he's bringing an NFL pro style defense to Ohio State is going to be that, and that'll be one thing that it'll be interesting to see how we, by doing that, are we giving up stuff in the running game, and do they have to kind of adapt and go away from that if they need to stop the run? So yeah, I think it's watching the defensive ends and where they line them up and how they line them up and what they do with it is going to be one of the great stories, probably the story of the season from the defensive side for the 2025 Buckeyes, and I can't wait to see what Matt's going to store.
Yeah, I agree. D Sunny, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my dude. He says, I always hear in QB competitions that are friends and supportive. Have you seen a position battle where guys genuinely didn't like each other? Well, yeah, I mean, the Justin Zoic and Troy Smith thing, I mean, those guys, I mean, you can ask those guys, when's the last time they went out for drinks or went out to dinner together? I mean, I'd say never. I mean, Troy, and again, this isn't me, unearthing anything, but I mean, they even talked about they were I mean, Troy Smith was going to fight him in the parking lot of the Woody Hayes the one day. So those guys didn't like each other. And again, they're not friends. They probably don't have each other's phone number. Now, and again, I'm not trying to stir a pot or anything, but it's either my family eats or your family eats. That's how it is, And again, this is pre-transfer portal. Like that. Now, if they had the transfer portal back in the day, and Justin Zwick wanted to transfer to another D1 school and play there, then it might have worked out different. But back then, it was like if you didn't beat the guy out, then you're watching, and your only option is to go 1AA, which Joe Flacco did. Like Joe Flacco got beat out by Tyler Palko, and he ends up going to Delaware, and then he becomes a first round pick. So it could happen, but I mean that's a big drop. I mean, to go from like an Ohio State to like Youngstown State, but yeah, I mean there were plenty of competitions, and I think that it's more hyper at positions like I mentioned where there's only one guy, especially quarterback, because the quarterback, you're either the Heisman Trophy winning hero and legend, or you're just a guy. You're just a guy that wasn't good enough to play at Ohio State. That's kind of what it is. So it's a different deal. I mean, not surprised any of you guys, but like I wasn't like best friends with the guys that I was competing with. I mean, TJ Downing I was, but he had to move down to guard. But the guys I was going against, like I was, like I said, I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to win a job, and it's like, that's kind of the mentality I always had. And now again, when I got out there with Rob Sims and Nick Mangold and those guys, like we played hard together. Me and TJ Downing, I mean, we played hard, and again, and TJ, once you're starting next to a guy, you got to have a good camaraderie with your guard when you're playing tackle, because that's just it's what you need. I mean, you're going to be doing a lot of combination blocks, a lot of double teams with them. So you got to have a really good sense of where they're going to be at. And, you hang out off the field together, and, me and TJ were real tight, which was great. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that, again, it's like anything else in the world. Like when someone has something that you want, there's going to be conflict over it. And no different with the starting spot. There's been guys that, again, we've seen recent times where, quarterbacks have gotten upset because they've gotten beat out. And I don't know. But like I said, it's different now because guys can transfer now. Back then it was, if you lost, you were kind of stuck, and that was a difference. So yeah, and again, you can look at, Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and there's like a billion, Joe Montana and Steve Young. I mean, those guys weren't friends. Those guys don't talk to each other. It's just kind of is what it is. Because again, they both want to start. They both think that they're better than the other guy. And then the coach has to pick the guy that he thinks is best. And then, if that guy produces, then you might never hear the other guy again. But if he doesn't, then there might be a switch, and you can see who truly was the best. Nevada, D Sunny, this is a great question. Thanks for 5. Says, I always hear in QB competitions that they are friends and supportive. I mean, I would say maybe in like half of them or so. I don't know. Have you seen a position battle where guys genuinely didn't like each other? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, it's like in life. I mean, some people, not everybody likes everybody. So I think that it's probably just as often that they don't like each other as it is that they do like each other. And that goes for other sports. I see it in hockey all the time. You see with goalies, where only one goalie plays, the goalie's in there, and you'd like to think that everybody's rooting for each other, but that's not always the way that it works. So it's it is a very competitive business, especially at the highest level, and um, yeah, there's been some very famous situations where people just did not like each other, but because you're teammates or whatever it is, you're gonna put on a brave face, but that certainly is not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, and there's guys that can function that just hate each other. I mean, the best example I can think of is Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. I mean, those guys don't like each other. They don't got the I mean, they asked Scottie Pippen on a show recently, like, when's the last time you went out to dinner with Michael? Never. And those guys won championships, they're Hall of Famers, they're top 50 NBA players of all time. And they don't, and they played it. It's a two and a three guard, two guard and a small forward right next to each other. And so again, like it's not uncommon, and those guys, if you guys just watch them play on the floor, you'd think that they're like the two best friends that have ever lived and best men at each other's weddings, and they actually hate each other. So again, it's I mean Michael's kid is literally or was dating Scotty's ex-wife, which is bizarro land and of all the bizarro lands, so whatever. So Nick Ma, appreciate you, my dude. I hope you're doing good. Thanks for the 5. He says, if you remember, Cam Newton's dad, the good Reverend, only asked for 180,000 back in the day. Inflation sucks. Well, yeah, I mean that might have been what he asked for, but that might have been like the first payment or the down payment. But yeah, little different now. Like I couldn't imagine what Cam Newton would be worth on the market today, but he was he was an absolute animal the 1 year that he was at Auburn. Is if you go look back, I mean, I think, and again, Nevada's going to absolutely charbroil me for this. That might have been the greatest quarterback performance for a season in the history of college football. And I know I'm going to get roasted. People are going to say Joe Burrow and whatever, but like, if you want to have something funny, add something funny to your life for the night, go look up Cam Newton's skill position players, the rest of his team, and his head coach. Because I know everyone's going to cover me and say Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase and Jefferson and the midget running back that won first round and the Joe Moore winning offensive line. Cam Newton did not have anybody on his team. It was terrible. I mean, and he carried those guys to a national championship with was it Gus Gus Malzahn or one of those guys and got him a huge extension. But yeah, Cam, again, he wasn't the first guy to get bought, but it was super common back in the day for these guys to get bought. But Nevada, your thoughts? Again, Nick Ma, that's a great point. He says if you remember, Cam Newton's dad only asked for 180,000 back in the day, and that inflation sucks. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, well, we've talked about this. I mean, now they used to joke about players having to take a pay cut, leaving some SEC schools, going to the NFL, but now it's true. Guys are taking pay cuts to go from college football to the NFL, and that is going to have a profound impact on Ohio State and on guys on longevity. Guys staying, I think guys will stay longer in college than they ever have before. And as an aficionado of college football, that just makes me happy because I love seeing guys play. I think guys having name recognition and staying longer in school is great for college football and certainly great for Ohio State. So I'm all about that. And Cam Newton
Yeah,
was not the greatest quarterback of all time, but I'm not going to even roast you. We'll have another
who
show where I roast you
well,
on
no, I said for one season. Who would you pick?
Joe Joe
Joe Burrow?
Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, dude, when you have Jamar
That.
Chase and Justin Jefferson, man, that's like easy
All
mode.
right, but don't penalize them for having great players around them. Just like I'll just
I'm not, man. But it's like when you look at if you switch those guys, like if you put Joe Burrow on that Auburn team, I mean, he's probably getting pulverized. I mean, go. There's skill guys. I think they might have had one guy get drafted of the skill guys. They didn't have
the
two
the
of the
scam
top two receivers in the NFL.
Scam Newton was an amazing player, and frankly, he was amazing in the pros. I mean,
Oh,
he was
yeah.
great. I mean, he was a wrecking machine. I don't
Oh my
have to
God.
like him, but I can admire his talent, man. He used to be able to stand in there and deliver the ball, almost unlike anybody I've ever seen. I mean, he was just
And
he was a force of nature.
and the craziest thing is he threw for like 400 yards his first game in the NFL, and I don't think he ever threw for 400 again the rest of his career. Like I think I read that somewhere. That was like the funniest thing ever. He threw for like 420 yards or something his first game, and I don't know. I remember the thing about Cam is I watched his game versus Arkansas probably 50 times because we played Arkansas. This is 2010. We're getting ready to play Arkansas in the bowl game with Terrell, and Cam was was the Heisman winner for Auburn in his 1 year at Auburn, and I mean the way that they ran Cam Newton, I mean they just had no regard for the kid for his health at all because they ran him quarterback power, Urban's old play, right in the A gap, and he hit Arkansas's best player on defense, their linebacker, and killed him and ran it like I mean like he ran into like a youth football player, and I was like, and again I love Terrell to death, but like Terrell, he ain't running nothing in the A gap. He's bouncing that thing outside, and I was like, Cam is just a different mutant, but. It was funny because we used to always make fun of Terrell because we'd say that Cam stole all of his swag because Terrell had been playing at Ohio State for 3 years before Cam came along from Blinn College, getting kicked out of Florida, Blinn College. And then, Cam shows up and he's got the same eye black and he's got the visor and he's wearing number 2 and he's got the same shirt. So we used to tease Terrell because he's like, the guy jacked all your swag. He took the same number, same fit, like same swag. And I was like, yeah, but he was a different animal that year. Luke Dojo, thanks for the 5. Appreciate you, my dude. Is CJ Hicks done now with Bo coming in? I imagine Logan George will get burned with how good coaches praise him, plus the 2 senior DNs. I don't think he's done, but I always kind of thought that he'd be a pass rusher over anything. I think what this lets you do is that on 3rd down, you can put Kenyatta inside, you can put Bo Atkinson inside, and you could put like Caden Curry, Logan George, CJ Hicks in some combination on the edges. Because again, I like my 2 6'6" guys to be on the inside so that they can deflect passes that are in the middle of the field. Especially because that's where a lot of the running backs that run their option H option, they run their option routes in the middle of the field as the check down for 4 verts or whatever. They're right in the middle of the field. So when you get the 2 6'6" guys there, they can bat those balls down because those aren't going to be high trajectory passes. But I don't know. I mean, this is a big summer for CJ. Again, Ryan Day literally said today, this is a big summer for CJ, which is code for, if he wants to play football next year in the NFL, like it's go time. Like he has to gain weight, be on point. He's already in incredible shape, but I mean, this is, now you're fighting for playing time. But I don't think that Bo Atkinson is a death knell for CJ. I just think that because to me they're different players. Like when you get a 6'6", 265-pound, and that's way different from CJ, who's 6'2", 245 or whatever he is, maybe 250 or 6'3". I mean that's just 2 different balls of wax. Because I can't with a good heart put CJ out there on early downs. I can't. It's kind of like with Caden Curry. Like I breathe a lot easier and sleep a lot easier with Bo Atkinson being out there on 1st down with Kenyatta having 2 6'6" ends versus a smaller end, because that's why those ends couldn't play versus Notre Dame 2 years ago, because they just weren't good in the run. I don't know how much better they've gotten in the last 2 years, but they're not going to be in the same universe as Jack and JT, because those were 2 of the most physical run defending defensive ends in Ohio State football history. So just call a spade. And the 2 guys behind them who are good players aren't great run defenders. So that's going to be the big emphasis for Larry and for Matt Patricia, is who are guys who can stop the run on early downs, and getting Bo Atkinson and putting him with Kenyatta, again, because I like the size, the 6'6", the length, to help defeat the tackles in the running game. Humongous ads. But I don't think it kills CJ, but this is a big summer for CJ. And again, when a coach says that it's a big summer for you, that means that you didn't do enough in the spring to really lock it in. Because he didn't say that this is a big summer for Austin Seyerveld. He said this is a big summer for CJ Hicks. Austin Seyerveld said he's one of our best players, he's a starter. and Ryan Day at this time of the year is not in the business of naming starters for anything outside of maybe X wide receiver with Jeremiah Smith, or free safety with Caleb Downs. So um, when a coach says that I need to see more going into summer, and this is a big summer, that's code for you're really fighting to gain serious playing time. Nevada Luke Joe again next to the 5 says, is CJ Hicks done now with Bo Atkinson coming in? I imagine Logan George will get burned with how the coaches have praised him, plus the 2 senior defensive ends. What are your thoughts?
No, I think CJ's. I'm pretty bullish on CJ, actually. I think he had a really good spring. I think Patricia likes him a lot, and I think they're challenging him. Obviously, they're challenging him to raise his game. They need more out of their pass rushers in general, and out of CJ in particular. So I'm not. He's definitely not done, and I actually think he's going to have a breakout season in 2025, and I still feel strongly about that.
Yep, I agree. Dan Welch, thanks for the 5, and thanks for being ultra as well. How long before the hammer comes down on Cheat again at Nevada OH? We're getting down to the months, right? Your thoughts, Nevada? I'll let you go first.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, June, July. It won't be longer than that. It's summer. This summer, the hammer falls. They're at the end of the road. They've stalled this thing out as long as they can, and they've played their cards as slowly as they're slow rolling right now. But all the cards will be revealed by July, and I think that's when it all hits the rubber meets the road.
It'll be a glorious day for Buckeye Scoop. Well, Nevada, nice long one tonight. Let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts?
No, just if you like the podcast, you really need to join BuckeyeScoop.com because our
No.
site is really where we are the other 23 hours a day. It's the perfect accompaniment to the podcast. And so if you haven't, give it a try. 1 month, it's like $12. It's like 30 cents a day or 40 cents a day or whatever it is. And it's the best money you'll spend because it's such a great community. And the more great members we can have in the community, just makes it better. So consider joining BuckeyeScoop.com and giving it a shot.
It's a tremendous Mother's Day gift as well. I have to throw that out there for all you moms that want something other than a toaster or new Lululemon. There's nothing that beats BuckeyeScoop.com. So if you don't know what to get mom, say, hey, join this message board because this is where the real inside information is shared on BuckeyeScoop.com. One last thing I'm going to do before we get out of here. Of course, that did not go where I needed it to go. Let me move this down. There we go, folks. So if you guys were curious, what is the website to get to the gear? Repthescoop.com. REPTHESCOOP.com. It takes you right to our store. The gear is incredible. I'm so proud of how good it turns out. And I love wearing it. Again, I wear Buckeye Scoop gear every day. You guys see I have literally 20 of these laying around. I just order them in bulk and then I get them all screen printed up and away we go. So repthescoop.com if you guys want to check our store out. Again, the stuff is tremendous. If you guys like hoodies, I don't think there's a better hoodie than Carhartt. I mean, their hoodies are fantastic. So, and I've had Nike, I've had Under Armour. I've tried to find the best hoodie that fits the best. It's the most durable, most washable, whatever. And the Carhartt one is really, really well done. So I just wanted to give you guys that plug and make sure you guys knew where to go. So with that being said, again, if you guys enjoy our content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, I appreciate you guys all being on here. Great show tonight. Appreciate the fantastic questions. The super chats again go to pay it forward. So again, you guys bring the heat and it makes the show a blast because you guys get to control the show. It's kind of like we're like touch tunes except for Ohio State football. So you guys get to pick the tunes. So we appreciate you guys bringing incredible questions. So it's always fun to talk about those. So again, if you guys can help us out, the best thing you can do is subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Again, we've been trying to grow that platform. It's been crawling along, and we just appreciate you guys that have done that. Just get on your podcast app on your iPhone, type in Buckeye Scoop, click subscribe. It takes 8 seconds, and it really helps me out. So we appreciate you guys so very much. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great rest of your night. See you guys at 7:10 tomorrow. Go Bucks.